All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's May 28th. This is Clean Power Alliance Finance Committee. And let's go ahead and have a roll call.
Thank you. Chair Santangelo,
I'm here.
Committee Member Albrecht,
I'm here.
Committee Member Coulter,
Here.
Committee Member Kalaikai,
Present.
Committee Member Zuckerman. He's Committee Member Zuckerman, you're on mute. And Committee Member Newman.
Here.
Thank you. We'll log him present soon.
Okay, that's everybody. Great. Do we have any general public comment?
We did not receive any correspondence here.
Great. Okay, then that'll move us on to the consent agenda. We have 4 items on the consent agenda today. Do we have a motion, or does anybody want to pull anything?
Move to approve.
Second, Kalaikai Claremont.
Thank you so much. I have a motion by Committee Member Albrecht and a second by Committee Member Kalaikai to approve the consent agenda. Chair Santangelo,
Yes.
Committee Member Albrecht,
Yes.
Committee Member Coulter,
Yes.
Committee Member Kalaikai,
Yes.
Committee Member Zuckerman.
Yes.
Thank you. And Committee Member Newman.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay. And that'll move us on to the regular agenda. And item number 5 is a report from our Chief Financial Officer.
Thanks, Susan. Hi, everyone. Pleased to report another good quarter financially for Clean Power Alliance. In the month of March, we increased our net position by about $10 million, which is great. For the year to date, we are up about $70 million, which is also a fantastic, 77.9 million to be exact. And we are well ahead of budget for the year. That's the good news. I want to make everyone aware that really starting in March, but you're going to see this continue into this current quarter in which we are in. We're going to give back a lot of that, being ahead of budget for the net position, and we're aiming to come in about at budget. The major reason for that is that the board approved a rate decrease, which went into effect in March. You'll hear more about that later when we do the budget presentation. But I just, I don't, folks should not be, if you see the results coming in lower than budget for the remainder of this quarter, folks should not be alarmed. That's really as expected. And we're, as I say, we're aiming to sort of hit the budget, perhaps be a little bit lower, a little bit higher, could go either way. The fourth quarter of the fiscal year, which ends June 30th, tends to be the most profit, or we accumulate the most reserves in that quarter. Big reason for that is in June, the summer rates begin, and summer rates tend to be higher. Summer rates are paid by our commercial customers. But June weather tends to be fairly mild, and that allows for some higher returns in the month of June and higher returns in that fourth quarter of the fiscal year overall. The other thing I want to pick up on and note, or just note, is something that Steve picked up on the last quarter, which is that our cash and days liquidity on hand has fallen over the course of the quarter. There is really nothing to be alarmed at there. The technical reason, which we mentioned in the dashboard, is we have a reduction in our accrued accounts payable. What that means in layman's terms is there's one counterparty in particular was just really slow to send us invoices. And so there was some unpaid balances that sort of accumulated due to the lack of receiving an invoice for them. They've sort of got around to invoicing, and that in this first quarter of the fiscal year, and that's sort of those invoices have now been paid. And that's what's brought down the cash balance. That concludes my overview of our financial performance. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, David. Are there any questions?
Hey, David, I got a quickie. When something like this happens and the report comes out, because I was noticing this morning on the receivables, it was a little bit skewed. Maybe you could put an asterisk and a footnote that some of these are running delayed or late.
Um, uh, where just to clarify, where were you thinking that
Well,
the
when a
asterisks might have?
receivable is delayed, like you just mentioned, considerably delayed, we know there's a delay because we're going to pay out and then we're going to receive the recovery of that
Yeah.
outlay. Maybe an asterisk might be helpful.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. I'll think that through. What I do, I kind of reference it, and it's a receivable for our supplier. It's a payable for us. So the payable balance kind of grew. That liability on the balance sheet grew, and then it's been paid down, and we paid it down with cash, which has in turn caused the cash to come down. I've kind of referenced it in the narrative of the dashboard, but let me give some more thought to how we could
Okay.
highlight these types of things a little bit better.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Just
Yeah,
a thought.
thank you for the suggestion.
Okay. If there aren't any more questions, I don't see anybody's hand up. We'll move on to item 6. And this is the approval of the selection of Baker Tilly as the auditor for CPA's fiscal year.
Terrific.
It's you, David? Yeah.
Yeah, it's over to me, and I'll take the presentation whenever folks are ready. Terrific. All right, we'll take the next slide, please. This is the recommendation that we approve the selection of Baker Tilly as the auditor for the upcoming fiscal, or to audit our current fiscal year, and authorize staff to enter into contract negotiations with Baker Tilly. This is pretty much the standard recommendation for this presentation each year, or has been for the last 6 years or so. I'll take the next slide. This is just a reminder of the Finance Committee's delegated authority to select the independent auditor, and we go through this process each year with the audit committee to arrive at a selection. Next slide, please. Great. So in February, my colleague Wei Lasano, who's the Senior Director of Finance, presented on this topic of auditor selection. And I'll just say Wei is out on vacation at the moment, and so I'm just sort of filling in for her for this presentation item. We outlined a number of important considerations in the selection of an auditor: electric industry experience, and expertise, reputation and independence, resources and effectiveness, communication and ongoing support, and cost of the audit. We identified in that presentation 3 categories of audit firms: the Big Four audit firms, mid-tier firms with utility specialties, and local accounting firms. And we asked the committee which types of auditors they'd like to see bids from, and the Finance Committee recommended that they wanted to see bids from all types of firms. So we conducted a competitive solicitation in which we requested proposals from 13 audit firms. Most of the firms that you saw named in that presentation, I think virtually all of them. And then we went and drew on and contacted additional auditors that are on the County of Los Angeles preferred auditor list. We received quotes from four of those auditors, including Baker Tilly and the other auditors named here. A little bit additional color. One of the audit firms that we named was named and we reached out to was Moss Adams. Moss Adams has announced a merger with Baker Tilly, which is expected to be consummated later this year. They declined to bid. We reached out to KPMG, which audits a number of utilities, including Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, and just got no response yet again. So what KPMG would charge us remains a mystery to me. And maybe it always will, I'm not sure. And we did outreach to a number of other audit firms and got, I think, what is a pretty good response, frankly. When we went through this process 6 years ago, I got response from only two. So we've doubled that number, which is great. And I think reflects just the stature and significance of Clean Power Alliance and our desirability as an audit client. Take the next slide, please. So we are recommending the selection of Baker Tilly for the following reasons. They have a nationwide audit practice, a nationwide practice of auditing electric utilities. They have very deep experience in the electric utility industry. And as I mentioned, they're merging with Moss Adams, which should provide them with sort of a greater reach. Baker Tilly has experience auditing California CCAs and CCA-related entities. These include, obviously, us, Marin Clean Energy, which is a prominent CCA in Northern California, Redwood Coast Energy, also a CCA, and in Northern California, and the California Community Choice Financing Authority. Baker Tilly has extensive knowledge of California energy markets as an experience with a whole range of different municipal electric utilities in the state. And Baker Tilly offered the lowest price. Take the next slide, please. A few other things to know about Baker Tilly. Our former audit partner was Beth Ryers. Beth was terrific. We enjoyed working with her. Aaron Worthman will be the new lead audit partner. He leads their utility practice at Baker Tilly. So I'm really excited to be able to work from him and gain from his knowledge and experience. Beth is terrific. I'm searching for the right phrase. Like, it's a bit of an upgrade, I think, to now be working directly with the lead audit partner of the utility practice. So we're very pleased about that. In previous engagements with Baker Tilly, we've experienced low staff turnover, good responsiveness, all the things that you want from an audit partner or any service provider. They've been responsive. It can be challenging to schedule audits, and they've worked with us to accommodate our schedule, as best they can, given the demands of all their clients kind of at once. So that's been great. And as I mentioned they've agreed to our audit schedule for the upcoming year. They've also provided us with an option to renew for one or more additional years beyond 24-25. And just noting that we would only exercise that renewal option upon the direction of this finance committee. I'll take the next slide. Oh, great. So we're back to the recommendation. happy to take any questions on this item. Rita.
Not seeing any questions. Oh, there we go.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, David, for the presentation. I just
Sure.
want to say that I appreciate you taking the feedback from the committee a few months ago and going out to solicit proposals from a handful of additional firms. And at this point, I'm comfortable moving forward
Great.
with the selection. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. I thought it was a robust and very helpful conversation last February, and we really appreciated it.
Yeah, I'd just like to piggyback on Rita's comments as well. I know that this was a little bit of additional work than maybe you had hoped for when we first had the conversation, but I appreciate the effort. And certainly when firms don't respond, that already gives you an indication of what kind of work product you get for something like that, or support you get going through that process. So at least we've ruled all those things out, and we can feel very comfortable, as Rita's alluding to, with Baker Tilly. So thank you for the effort.
Terrific.
David, I have a question.
Sure.
Just to make sure, I think we covered this a few months ago, but it's okay that we continue with Baker Tilly.
It is. Yeah. If that was the
Was
question.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, was it as long as we change the partner that we're working with?
Exactly. And so we're transitioning the lead audit partner consistent with best practice.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
With that, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to accept the staff recommendation for Baker Tilly.
I'll second.
Thank you so much. I have a motion by Committee Member Kalaikai and a second by Committee Member Zuckerman to approve item number 6. Chair Santangelo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Committee Member Albrecht?
Yes.
Committee Member Coulter?
Yes.
Committee Member Kalaikai?
Yes.
Committee Member Zuckerman?
Yes, although actually I wasn't the person that made the second.
My apologies.
No problem.
Thank you, Committee Member Newman.
Aye.
That was a second by you. Yes,
A
thank you.
second and an aye.
Gotcha. Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, that brings us to item 7, and this is the approval of the proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget.
Great. I'm gonna just intro this one and introduce Jennifer Stevenson, who joined CPA very recently. We're really excited to have her. She's very new to obviously our organization, but not new to CCAs. She's been working with San Jose Community Energy prior to joining us. She worked there for 4 years and has really extensive experience that we're just pleased to really be benefiting from. Yeah, very excited to have Jennifer make this presentation.
Great, thanks, David. So as David mentioned, I'm Jennifer Stevenson. I'm the Financial Planning and Analysis Manager here at Clean Power Alliance. Very glad to be here today to present the proposed 25-26 budget. We're projecting good news and a positive year, so it's a great way to meet you all. Next slide, please. The budget is being presented to you in the hopes that you will recommend approval of the proposed budget to the board. Next slide. This is a reminder of where we are in the budget process. I know you've seen this before. So it started in January. In April, we met with you. David presented the budget priorities and the draft budget. And today we're presenting the proposed budget. This will go to the board for consideration next week. Next slide. All right, so here's an overview of the key elements included in the proposed budget. We're presenting 13% lower energy costs, 51% lower contribution to reserves, a 180% higher interest income, a 14% higher operating expense, and a 17% lower revenues as a result of the other budget items. Now let's get into the details of each of these. Next slide, please. Great, thank you. So energy costs, of course, will always be the largest and most impactful expense, and we're projecting, or budgeting rather, a 13% reduction. And the reduction reflects two key items. First of all, in FY25 and in the coming fiscal year 26, 328 megawatts of renewable energy and 420 megawatts of storage will begin commercial operation under long-term PPAs. These contracts will replace, in many cases, higher cost short-term contracts that we've needed to rely on to meet our needs. Pardon me. Also, we're projecting a decrease in market prices for resource adequacy and renewables. And it's worth noting that a contingency is included in our energy cost budget line of 7.1% of projected energy costs. Next slide. Great. Operating expense highlights. Now, I know that we presented this last month. There have been some minor updates between the draft budget and this proposed budget, but the underlying priorities have not changed. So 74% of the operating expense increase in the budget is due to priorities in staffing, communications, and customer programs. For staffing, the year-over-year increase is 16%. That reflects full year impact of the FY 24-25 hires, cost of living adjustment, merit, retention incentives, 7 new positions, and 4 potential unallocated mid-year hires. And nearly $600K of the staffing budget is reimbursable from grant and program funding. For communications, the year-over-year increase is 53%. The increase supports customer program acquisition through website enhancements, market research, community-based organization-led outreach efforts, as well as branding efforts to improve CPA brand recognition and awareness, and a turnkey mobile education unit. 65% of the marketing and communications total budget is intended to support programs. Customer programs has a year-over-year increase of 9%. It's a smaller increase than we've seen in past years, and that's really due to three things working with each other. So expected administrative costs for some programs are lower than we had anticipated, and we've improved our expense timing projections for programs, so it's a little more realistic as to when the expenses will be incurred. And so those decreases are offset by greater investment in some existing programs, which we went into in detail last month, so I won't get into detail here. Next slide, please. So at last month's meeting, it was suggested that we show the 3 budget priority items with the year-over-year change in budgeted amounts, and this slide was created to reflect that. I included it here in case there were any questions or discussion about it, but going forward, we'll include this in the budget priorities April presentation to Finance Committee. The reasons remain the same. Staffing cost increases are decelerating as CPA matures. Communications and marketing budget year-over-year growth really reflects what's happening in terms of growing customer programs, including the associated tasks such as enhancing website interactivity, community-based organization outreach, and market research. And then this year's increase also includes the deployment of a mobile education unit. And the customer programs tracks to development of program offerings and has been tapering as we better understand the timing of program expenses. Next slide, please. Okay, so we've discussed energy and operating expenses. Now let's look at revenues and contribution to reserves. The first highlighted row there is interest income, which is projected to increase by $17 million or 180% year over year due to a larger pool of funds available for investments. Just a reminder that CPA invests funds and earns interest income pursuant to its investment policy, which prioritizes the safety and liquidity of investments and investment returns. And then the middle highlight shows us the change in net position of $65.1 million. This is not as large as last year. In prior years, it's not as large of a contribution as last year because it doesn't need to be. The budgeted increase in net position is anticipated to bring CPA's reserve percentage to 50%, which is the target balance outlined in the reserve policy. Days liquidity on hand is projected at 189 days, consistent with the reserve policy as well. Next slide, please. All right, now let's round it out by discussing electricity revenue. So the net electricity revenues are projected to decrease by 17%. This reflects the board-approved rate approach, as well as the full year impact of the rate decrease that went into effect in March, which David touched on in his update at the beginning of the meeting. A year-over-year increase in budgeted load of 0.1% is included in this projection, and that increase in load is from its offsetting factors. New community enrollments and increased customer electrification increase our load, but the decrease comes from customer solar additions and refinement in CPA's load forecast modeling. Included in this revenue is a bad debt expense budgeted at 2% or $26.9 million. Last year, the bad debt expense was 1.9%, so it's remained pretty flat year over year. Next slide. Great. So in summary, the FY 25-26 proposed budget reflects lower energy costs with a year-over-year decrease of $186 million, a lower contribution to reserves with a year-over-year decrease of $68.2 million, higher interest income with a year-over-year increase of $17.1 million, slightly higher operating expenses with a year-over-year increase of $9.6 million, and lower revenues with a year-over-year decrease of $263 million. The budgeted increase in net position is anticipated to achieve the reserve policy target of 50% by June 30th, 2026, with days liquidity on hand again of 189 days. And CPA's financial metrics continue to compare favorably with peer CCAs and is consistent with our A- credit rating. Next slide, please. Great. So finally, to round us off, the recommendation is that the Finance Committee recommend approval of the proposed FY 25-26 budget to the Board of Directors. And that is it for my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions. Yes, Mr. Newman?
Yes, thank you, Jennifer, for the presentation. Appreciate it. Everything's very clear. This is really more of a comment than a question. I have to confess, I had a little bit of sticker shock when I saw initially the 17% reduction in revenue, or in absolute terms, a $262 million drop. Some publicly traded companies I've been involved with had a lot of excitement the day after they announced a 17% revenue reduction.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm asking is kind of a follow-up to Director Albrecht's comment in an earlier item in today's meeting, where I hope you can put the same amount of color around that one, this is a direct result of a board action. This is as you said, we changed the rate approach, and this is an outcome of that change, and also a decrease in rates, again approved by the board, and it's not a problem, and that the overall position of the budget is quite robust and quite healthy. But if in case anyone else on the board or in the public has this kind of surprise at that kind of revenue reduction, that's just to make clear that's where it's coming from. That's it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that we're not in the business of profits. We're getting there and we're achieving what we set out to achieve with the reserve. So thank you for that comment. That's good.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll just add, I also, David, had a bit of sticker shock when you see the order of magnitude. I think, for you all on the finance committee, also in maybe talking about this at the full board, it really is a result of lower costs and we need less money.
Right.
Lower costs, lower contribution to reserve because we're topping out, and that translates into lower rates. So, I mean, just shorthand, it's actually, if we needed more money, we would not show that kind of reduction.
Right. I'm just, my concern is people, sometimes me, who only look at the headline and don't read the fine print, and there are perfectly good reasons for this, and overall, I think the budget is very sound and quite strong. But I could see where people would have the same initial response that I did.
Absolutely. Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions or comments?
If there aren't any other questions, I'll go ahead and move item 7.
Oh, I thought I saw Miss.
Okay, it's me again.
There you are.
Sorry about that. I don't have any questions about the budget this year. I just have a general comment, just going to throw it out there for staff just to kind of think about for the next year. And I think, David, you had talked about this previously. I think one of the other committee members had brought it up. I know we don't do any carryovers. I'm specifically looking at the customer program line item. And I know, at the end of the fiscal year, you close it out and then you have the new budget for the new fiscal year, right? I'm just wondering if there is, and you don't need to answer me today, just going to throw it out there again. If there is a way for us to carry over some of those funds for future years. So let's say there's a handful of projects that were earmarked, this fiscal year, they didn't all get spent out for one reason or another, maybe staffing at the city level or staffing at the, CPA staff level. Those funds weren't spent. And then we have a new budget for the next fiscal year. So, there may be opportunities for us to identify those projects in this fiscal year and then identify new projects in the next fiscal year, but being able to carry over those funds from this year into next year so that that pool of money continues to grow so we can continue to do more and more projects year after year.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and it is very confusing, right? Because, well, we approved this much for programs and then now we're approving this much more. So it gets a little muddy. I'm already working on a way to present next year in a way that might satisfy what you're looking for, but I'll work, of course, more with David on that, and hopefully we can bring you something next year.
Okay, I love it. Thank you so much.
Thanks. I don't see any other questions, so I think
we're ready for a motion.
I move item 7.
Second, Kalika Claremont.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have a motion by Committee Member Newman and a second by Committee Member Kalaikai to approve item number 7. Chair Santangelo,
Yes.
Committee Member Albrecht,
Yes.
Committee Member Coulter,
Yes.
Committee Member Kalaikai,
Yes.
Committee Member Zuckerman,
Yes.
and Committee Member Newman.
Aye.
Thank you so much. Motion passes.
All right, thank you, everybody. That brings us down to committee member comments. Does anybody have any comments?
Yeah, I would like to thank staff and everybody involved on completing this budget. This is an amazing process. Vetted on so many different angles, even by reference by this meeting. It's interesting that when there weren't a lot of questions, that only leads me to believe that we support virtually and internally all the work and effort that's been done, and I think we got a great budget going forward with a lot of little, not a lot of little, a lot of room for problems that may develop with the costs being reduced. Maybe weather will cooperate a little bit, and we'll even surprise ourselves even more. So good work, everybody.
Thank you.
I agree. A lot of good work and a lot of hard work went into this.
Just one question from Steve here. I'm having some issues, so I can't raise my hand on the Zoom. Where do we stand on account collection? Are we pretty much now where we will be for the near-term future? Things have not changed greatly, or they've changed a little bit. And do we foresee any change?
Ted, I mean, they haven't changed very much, Steve. I think we're going to make some progress with SCE in the near future. There's kind of a process underway there. But we haven't reached the end of that process. I know it's a little cryptic. Maybe you can read between the lines.
Yeah,
Go for it.
I'll try. I'll be a little more clarity. We would like to begin to be a little bit more aggressive in our collection process, particularly with receivables from commercial customers or residential customers that have very, very large balances. We've the ability to, and I'll say that Jennifer has some experience in this area with San Jose. So one of her tasks we're looking forward is to, learn from that. But to be confident in going out and collecting or transferring receivables to a collection agency, we want to be really sure that we're saying that they owe the right amount. And the data that we've been getting from Edison is not yet collection grade data, I'll say. Think of it like sushi grade tuna or something, right? This is not yet the thing that you want to hang your hat on. And so we've been working with SCE through actually a CPUC mediated process to try to get from them more timely and data that we feel confident then turning over to an agency and saying, go get this amount of money. So we're not confident, so we don't want to launch out and say, hey, to a customer, hey, you owe us this amount, and the customer going, well, actually, that's not the right process. So we are working through that and hope to have a resolution this fiscal year, and then bring that, then engage in that next step of process, which is actually trying to collect from those customers.
Okay, good background. Thanks, Ted.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I don't see any other comments. So unless there are any, we'll go ahead and adjourn. Our next meeting is June 25th, 2025. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.